Aussie guy, David McMillan. Have you heard about him? He was the only Australian ever to escape the Phnom Penh prison by getting outside the gates himself physically. Now, he was also the first Australian, but the only person in the world to have ever gotten out of there by traditional escape methods, which is pretty amazing if you think about it. He had his own little ladder made from bamboo. He had hacksaws. He had hacksaws, okay, and he used them to sort of shave through the bars, but he had to lubricate himself up and squeeze himself through these bars. But the one thing that he sort of had the advantage over everyone else was, and this is where your escapes go wrong in Thailand, so grab a pen and paper in case you're planning to escape. He knew exactly what the guards were doing at that time of night. So it was 2 a.m. You know that story, Dr. Chris? He's amazing. David's on my podcast soon, Escaping Bangkok. So I'm really happy that I spoke to him. He is an amazing storyteller. I know he's done some terrible things, but he wants people to learn from his bad mistakes. So he's lubricated himself up, squeezed through the bars, and then had to sneak around. So the guards may be asleep, right? But they've got these minions that work for them who are prisoners, but they're higher up in the hierarchy. So you've got to make sure that they're not alerted to what you're doing. So he eventually had to get through 9 walls. He gets through eventually to the last one, and it's got electric razor. Now, he was aware, he was aware that there was going to be this electrified wire there. So he was able to, I don't know how, but he sucked up the pain. And I actually asked him on the podcast. He sucked up the pain, got down, and then his next task was to, he was starting to get really stressed out because it was 2 a.m. when he first escaped, and now the sun's coming up. So he was supposed to be crossing this, quote, Mars Bar River. Okay, there's a dirty sewage channel. He had plans to cross there, and he had plastic bags and a little raft, but it didn't work out because the sun was coming out. So he had to walk around it. By then, the sun's up. So it's 6 a.m. and David, to get out of this prison, he has to walk past the guards. So what did he do? This is what he had in his little backpack, which is incredible. Hello, Caleb and Molly. Absolutely incredible. He had an umbrella because Phnom Penh prison has an umbrella making factory. That's where the Thai prisoners have to work. So he put it up, and it was very fortunate that he did because he saw one of his guards who absolutely hated him. But because he had the umbrella above him, no one was looking at this white guy who was, at 6 a.m. in the morning crossing the front of the jail. So he got out of there, got into a taxi, and somehow, this is what's amazing about these guys, they can get passports wherever they want. So meanwhile, Molly, as I was saying, David gets in this taxi, goes to a safe house in Bangkok, gets his new passport and a bit of money, US dollars, and then leaves on the first flight out of there to Singapore. Oh, yes, invite your friends. TikTok is telling me to invite your friends. Anyone else who's interested in how to escape a Thai prison? Because aren't we all? I've put a poll up there as well. How would you get out of there? Would you tell me, thank you, Molly. Hello, cool dog. Would you just suck up your prison sentence? Would you try and escape like that? Or would you put some money into it? Who knows what I mean by that? I've just got to have water. Very old. So we're going to take you through this moment by moment with David on my podcast, Escaping Bangkok. Because the thing is about the Bangkok Hilton, you might escape, but it never really leaves you, and people have a lot of trauma to deal with. And Warren Fellows, this is his book. It's called The Damage Done. He was in Bang Kwang prison in Bangkok, and he spent 12 years there. It was an absolute nightmare that he lived through. And he came back to Australia a totally different man. He was caught smuggling heroin and guess who he was smuggling the heroin for? Arthur Neddy Smith. Does anyone know who he is? He's one of the worst gangsters in Australian history. So he was there for 12 years and eventually he got a pardon and he was sent home to Australia. But by then he had hepatitis, he had HIV, and he was extremely physically malnourished because you won't get a Panadol even in these places. And if someone dies on a bank holiday, you have to wait 3 days for someone to come and get the body because there's no one on staff to do it. So they are truly inhumane facilities. Oh, hello, Elise. How are you? Thank you for joining us. Molly would just run for her life or give them money to get out. Well, that's what I think. So we will be talking